Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here. Today's video will be entitled City Mayors and State Governors Corruption. I'm not really sure that corruption is the appropriate word to use, but it applies. What I do mean is the pacification and control of pseudo leaders of your strategic Hamlet Hunger Game. There are no states, so consequently, there can be no governors. There are no cities, so consequently, there can be no mayors. But there are strategic hamlets, electronic corridors, mapped areas, dead end cul de sacs, kill boxes, secured perimeters, military housing, military trace track and targeting peoples on systems military systems that are fully deployed, deployment, in case you didn't know what that means it's too late. It's already been done. The prison wall has been constructed. You live within a controlled detention facility with travel restrictions and or gatekeeping. Gatekeeping. If you go to the airport, there's something called the TSA agents, right? Transportation Safety Authority or safety agency? Do you feel safe? Do you feel safe when a TSA agent is wants to do a pat down on you and wave that electronic wand on you? Do you feel safe? Or did you feel safer when they didn't exist? I felt great when they didn't exist. Do you feel good about having ICE masked men with automatic rifles coming into your township? Does that make you feel safe that the ICE people are there? Juxtaposition says no. Juxtaposition says no. Juxtaposition says, wait a minute, hold on. Poppycock, balderdash, and mendacity. That's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to do an expose series of cities. Now, if anyone out there who's listening to this wants to forward me a particular township, town mayor that you want to land based, or you want to showcase, or you want me to showcase and land based, do post it. You have to be a paid member to post, of course, but become a paid member and I'll post your story about your city and your city mayor. And that'll extend to the city council or the board of supervisors. Now, we can also showcase your governor, your state governor. I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to roast and lambaste Gavin Newsom of California, Greg Abbott of Texas, Ron DeSantis, Navy intelligence officer spook, prisoner dilemma game, forced feeding enema expert, member of the biscuit team, Ron DeSantis, who was engaged in the participating in the torture of prisoners at Fallujah in Iraq and in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. That's right. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, engaged in force feedings and enemas. And he went to Yale and Harvard Law. Right. And he's expert on torture. Well, pardon me, they call it enhanced interrogation, but juxtaposition calls it what it is, torture. Crimes against humanity. Crimes against humanity. And don't you we all agree that the state of Florida is in a circling the drain down the toilet mode right now with all of its hurricanes and its unpaid homeowner association dues and all of its hurricane damages and all of its property insurers fleeing the state and Disney World still there, Disney World with its underground tunnel facility below the amusement fairy tale park, Epcot Center, home to Jeffrey Epstein, right? Jeffrey Epstein and the murder of George de Mohrenschildt, walking distance from where Jeffrey Epstein had a mansion where he undoubtedly participated in the raping of underage girls there in Palm Beach, Florida, Palm Beach County. Do you think that the county sheriff of Palm Beach is corrupt? Do you think the mayor of Palm Beach is corrupt? I do. You think the mayor of Fort Lauderdale and mayor of Miami is corrupt? I do. You think the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, you think he's corrupt? I do. Right? And we have that same problem in California, got that problem in Illinois, got that problem in the state of New York and the county in New York and Manhattan, New York, Bronx, Staten Island, Long Island, Queens. That problem is ubiquitous and inescapable, all the way up to Yonkers and Mouse Kisco, where Robert Kennedy Jr.'s second of three wives was garroted, murdered, then displayed in a barn, hanging by a rope. And the media immediately called it a suicide, having not performed any investigation whatsoever. Neither had the sheriff's department. But anyway, never, as Mark Twain once said, never let an eyewitness or the truth get in the way of a good fake story, right? All right. I paraphrased a little bit there. All right. So, anyway, I want to do an expose featuring city mayors across the fake United States of America, which is a colony of Switzerland. Okay. It was founded with Harvard University in 1639. Harvard University was founded in Cambridge, Massachusetts, on what became the River Charles, and Bay, the Hudson Bay area there. Um, Let me tell you that Paul Revere came out of there. He was stamping coins for the banks. Let me tell you that the purpose of Harvard University, 140 years before we had the so-called fake American Revolution, for 140 years, Harvard was indoctrinating clerics and civic leaders. In other words, men with minor authority, men with minor authority who could be pseudo leaders of their strategic hamlets within their colonies, within the 13 colonies belonging to England, right? Which belongs to Switzerland, right? Right. Geneva and Zurich and Zug and Liechtenstein and Basel, which is home to the central bank for all central banks. Okay. Because juxtaposition, it's not like I'm a potted plant and I get on the Google, browser search and to learn about things. I actually was out there with clients from all walks of life, including presidents of private jet companies with fleets of Gulfstream private jets. And yeah, I'm kind of like a priest, father confessor type, where people would tell me things and then I would keep a secret for decades, which I've done. But I'm going to share with you a little gem that I heard, I don't know, at least 30 years ago from a CEO of a private jet company that had a contract with Bank of America to provide all transportation of all the executives of Bank of America, which was merged during his tenure into Charlotte, North Carolina's Nations Bank. So, in other words, Nations Bank, we dropped the name Nations and it just was Bank of America. But the people in Charlotte started to assert themselves over the San Francisco executives, where yours truly had met, I'll give you some names, Tom Clausen, who was the CEO of Bank of America, um, met him at his office on the 47th floor of 555 California Street, above the Black Rock, above the Blackstone, 47 stories above the Blackstone, right? At 555 California Street. That comports to 33, if you didn't know. 555 is 33, the highest level of the chain of command of the obelisk. All right. Met him in his office. Then I met him at the Bohemian Club for cocktails on Hijinks night. Then I met Tom Klassen a third time at the Bohemian Grove on a weekend day. I think it was a Saturday afternoon. I met him up there, the Russian River, not far from the owl. There's a 40-foot owl on a bluff above the Russian River. I'm sure you've heard of that. I've personally climbed into it. It's like a fireplace with a chimney. The chimney is the eyeballs of the owl. It's like a cremation oven, sort of. I never saw anyone get cremated there, but it's a big fireplace, 40 feet tall. Anyway, my client, who was both the pilot and the CEO of a company, I won't name it, and He told me that he flew the president of Bank of America from Zurich back to San Francisco so he could go to his home in Atherton. And on that flight, the CEO, um, I have his name, and I'm just not going to say it. The current CEO was being flown from Zurich, where he'd had a meeting, which Switzerland runs all the banks in the world, right? Where he was fired, and they made the CEO of Nations Bank take his job from Charlotte, North Carolina. That decision was made in Zurich, Switzerland. I believe it was made in Liechtenstein, but it was delivered in a conference room in Zurich at a bank, probably UBS, Union Bank of Switzerland, or the Bank for International Settlements branch office in Zurich. I don't know which building it was given, but he was fired in Switzerland, and then he was dejected and depressed on the flight home back to San Francisco. Also revealed a number of things in that conversation once he was terminated as the chairman of the board and CEO of Bank of America, which was that the stock market is a joke, it's a metaverse, it's rigged. That the bond market is a joke, it's rigged. That was revealed to a pilot who didn't really have any finance experience, and he asked me what I thought it meant. And I said, well, I know what it means. And I've been saying that for decades myself, but I've never heard an executive of a bank say it. Anyway, it's gossip. It's secondhand. I wasn't there. I wasn't. I may have been on the plane. You do know that I was given the tour of this particular airplane transportation company, and I did sit on a Citation, and I sat on a Gulfstream, which that time I was told it was an $18 million airplane, and again, this is 30 years ago. So I'm assuming that a Gulfstream probably costs more like 60 million now. But when I sat on one, they're more or less the same. It could have been the exact plane where the CEO of Bank of America was drying his tears when he got fired in Zurich, Switzerland. But my point of today's video is that the corruption that you think is in government is so much more ubiquitous than you believe it is. It's it's full spectrum dominance. It goes from the lowest lows to the highest highs. So Donald Trump is a clown, and he has no authority whatsoever. The president, Jamie Dimon, who has an MBA from Harvard, he's the CEO of Chase, J.P. Morgan. He's a clown. He has no authority whatsoever. Jane Fraser, who's indoctrinated, I believe, in Cambridge, she's the CEO of Citigroup. She's a clown. She has no authority whatsoever. The CEO of Bank of America and Merrill Lynch, they have no authority whatsoever. And I have a former client who's a Mr. Big within that executive board at Merrill Lynch in Manhattan, New York. I believe he lives in Princeton, New Jersey, in a mega mansion. He's a clown and he has no authority either, but he is on the Metropolitan Board of Trustees and knows the who's who's, mover and shakers of New York City. And he has season opera tickets, right? Of course, but he's a clown and he has an important title. He's a managing director, and I won't mention his name, but he's a clown, and I won't mention his name, but he's a clown and he's active today. He's a COVID occultist, of course. They all are. 100% of them all believe in following their orders or else. In other words, you can't trust anybody at a bank. That means you can't trust anybody in government. Of low level government, meaning your town council, your city council, your city mayor, you can't trust a single person. Okay. They are all pimping out United Nations Agenda 2030, World Economic Forum talking points, which is climate action. Climate action is a WEF talking point. Climate action. There's no such thing as climate change. None. It's made up, right? Climate change is as fake as was the COVID hoax pandemic. In other words, a fake hoax existing on your mobile phone and existing on cable television and existing in and around your town by masked zombies, social distancing 33, 6 feet apart, 3, 3. highest level of obedience within the chain of command, within what juxtaposition has taught you, is Swiss Bank Authority. The obelisk stands for Swiss Bank Anthropology, expressed through cult rituals. Cult rituals, signs and symbols. The obelisk is a sign and symbol. The Transamerica Pyramid in San Francisco is the tallest obelisk in the city of San Francisco. They have an obelisk in Union Square in front of St. Francis Hotel. They have Coit Tower, that's an obelisk. Um, and you should know that the obelisks are a sign that you are under Swiss rule within your strategic hunger game. Today, San Francisco has been destroyed. Economically, socially, it's wrecked. There are still remnants available. There's still Pacific Heights. There's still Seacliff. There's still the Marina District, which there are no homeless people. There's no hobos there. It costs, $18 million to move into those neighborhoods. So there's no homeless people there. But Financial District is a ghost town. The Embarcadero is all boarded up. 1.7 miles of Market Street on both sides is boarded up. That's 3.4 miles of boarded up retail shopping boarded up. So I would say that San Francisco, as a international tourist destination, is dead, right? Just like Seattle, Washington is dead. The only thing really left in Seattle, Tacoma area, is Boeing, McBoeing, McDonnell Douglas Boeing. And they're in the NATO weapons business for drones and KC-10 extenders and KC-47 Pegasus dumpers of aluminum chalk over your town. So, to drive the point home in terms of the demolition of our world, I certainly am willing to expand this to the city of Paris, to the city of London, to the city of Milan, Italy, okay, to the city of Rome, to the city of Florence in Tuscany. I'm willing to go to Istanbul, Turkey, or Beirut, Lebanon, or Tel Aviv, Israel, or to Cairo, Egypt. I am prepared to go to Miami, Florida, Baltimore, the head of the NATO Navy. It's in Baltimore, NATO, or to Charleston, South Carolina, Charlotte, North Carolina, um, go to West Virginia. I'm willing to go to Richmond, Virginia. I'm willing to go to McLean, Virginia, and the CIA and military intelligence, the farm in Virginia, or Memphis, Tennessee, or Nashville, or go to Dallas, Texas, Austin, Texas, San Antonio, Texas, or Austin, Texas, right? Or Johnson City, Texas, New Mexico, Santa Fe, Albuquerque, Phoenix, Scottsdale, Sedona, Arizona, San Diego, Santa Barbara, Carmel, Monterey, Pebble Beach, and we can select the mayors of all those towns, and then we'll land base them on my channel. And then we're going to include the police and the sheriff's department. You do know that virtually all police cars have sensor trackers on them, right? And we just had an embarrassing case in the state of Massachusetts where they have over 3,000 state police cars that have 24/7 tracking because they don't trust their employees. And you should know that of the 3,000 police cars that have trackers to see if people are goofing off on the job or if they have the car parked in their garage at home when they're off duty, that 418 of 3,000 trackers are disabled, meaning that they have a kill switch that they've activated. And when you turn off your tracker, the it sends off a signal at the home office, and the keyboard commando would see that the detective has turned off the tracker. That's typically who turns off the trackers is the higher ranking police officers. They don't want to be traced and tracked. At least they don't want their car traced and tracked. You do know that all the people can be traced and tracked as well. So it's kind of a trick question. I'm playing on my audience here. Every single person in law enforcement and the military has been vaccinated and they're all traced and tracked. So if you want to disable your automobile, I don't care. I'll still trace and track you anyway, you MFer. But the point is that the supervisor would be notified that the transponder is turned off, and the supervisor won't take any action. They're okay with 15 to 20% of their police being in the black box. In other words, off the grid, not being traced and tracked. Perhaps those officers are conducting felony crimes against humanity, possibly, right? Anyway, from my experience as a cyclist, usually on training rides, I would happen across highway patrol officers or sheriff's deputies parked in getaway, kind of off the grid, off the beaten path, in an enclave behind a bush, and I would find them, and then I would say, I'd like to report a crime. And then they're real annoyed. They give me a dirty look, and because they're off duty or they're goofing off on their cell phone, and I'm now interrupting them in their hiding place. So a couple things is now they know that I know where they hide. And that's annoying. And number two is I want to talk to them to interrupt them from either filling out their report paperwork and or goofing off on their cell phone while they text Paris Hilton or somebody. So I said, I want to report a crime over your head. There's chemtrails being dumped from military planes, KC-10 extenders. I know what a KC-10 extender is, they retort. I said, well, great. Why don't you report it? I don't have any authority over the skies above, is the answer. And another answer from a Santa Barbara County sheriff was, I am not here for you, juxtaposition. I am not here for you. Truer words were never spoken by a county sheriff's deputy ever. I am not here for you. Well, guess what? Not only are they not here for juxtaposition, they're not here for you either. So, what I'm trying to tell you is if you want to resolve the problem of smart meters and ring cameras and LED streetlights, which are surveilling you 24/7 and subjecting you to toxic levels of radiation poisoning, if you're concerned with Havana syndrome, which the media has relabeled as COVID or Omicron variant or bird flu or monkeypox, right? That you have ringing in your ears, you have headaches, you feel nausea, you have spatial awareness problems, you have a fever. That's radiation poisoning. That's Havana syndrome. But our media, is not here for you, your media is not here for you. There are no journalists in the media. None, not one. There's no jobs for journalists. There are no jobs for journalists. There are jobs for reciting poppycock, balderdash, and mendacity involving sports, politics, and of course, the most biggest crime of all, the concealment of the truth. The airplanes above, the dumping of toxic waste in our breathable airspace, our troposphere, the molecular engineering, CRISPR-Cas9, CRISPR Therapeutics, human augmentation program out of Geneva, Switzerland. This is being concealed. The journalists are not writing about human augmentation. They are not writing about steroids in baseball, corked bats in baseball, steroids in tennis, steroids in football. They're not even talking about the Triple Crown, which is coming up, right? Don't we have the Kentucky Derby happening soon? Yes, we do. We have the Kentucky Derby, do we not? Yes, we do. Let's discuss that for a second, because besides lying about the NFL and Deanna Rossini and Mike Rabel's 6 to 10 year affair, they've lied to us about the horse racing, the ponies, betting on the ponies, the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness Stakes, the Belmont Stakes held annually in the United States, which happens to coincide with the Tour of Italy in Europe, in Italy, and in the Tour de France in Paris and in France. They lie about that, right? They call Tadej Pogacar's dominance of the Tour of Romandie ending today, where he won 4 of 6 races, and the 2 that he didn't win, he got fourth place. He finished fourth in the prologue, and he finished fourth in a bunch sprint in I think stage 3, and then he won all the other stages dominantly, as if he had an electric motor in his bike besides all the doping. And I'm sure he did have an electric motor or drone assist or some technology that the other riders didn't have because it's rigged, it's fixed. And the media wants to tell you he's brilliant and that it's impossible to explain how dominant he is. But juxtaposition says Impossible? Are you crazy? There's always a simple explanation for the murder of John Kennedy and Robert Kennedy and Aaron Valente and John Benet Ramsey. Those cases are really simple. They're really, really, really simple. It's just the media wants to cloud the issue through the fog of war to make it sound more complicated than it really is. The reason that one rider of 180 riders can just ride away like you're on a beach cruiser is because you have electric motor in your bike, which there's been electric motors in bicycles for at least 20 years. But the media doesn't discuss electric motors in our bikes, even though there are many, many examples and cases of electric motors being used in competitions. Yes, but we don't talk about it. That's what the media is built upon, the concealment of the truth. That's what the Matrix of Mendacity is all about. It's about entertaining you with Houdini magic carpet stories and not telling you about human augmentation, not telling you about who killed Sharon Tate, who killed Abigail Folger, who killed Dr. Victor Oda, who killed Bill Graham, whose real name is Wolf Krajanka, who killed Mary Richardson, the second of three wives of Robert Kennedy Jr. Okay? Because they just lie 24/7. They lie like a rug 24/7. Anyway, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. So if there's a particular mayor or a governor or a district attorney or state attorney general, like Ronald Reagan or Evil Younger, who was the district attorney of Los Angeles, and then became the attorney general of the state of California. If it's Gavin Newsom, Barbara Boxer, Nancy Pelosi, in the Senate and or the House of Representatives, if it's Rand Paul, Ron Paul, Ron DeSantis, Greg Abbott, Al Franken, Jesse the Steroid Ventura, WWE Wrestling, if it's Joe Rogan, steroided out Joe Rogan and mixed martial arts, if it's the unfunny comedian Alex Jones, Bill Hicks, or if it's Arnold Screw Your Freedom, steroided out beauty pageant queen Arnold Schwarzenegger, or if it's Johnny Roselli or George DeMornshield or Jeffrey Epstein's mayor of Palm Beach, the city of Palm Beach and the county of Palm Beach and the sheriff's department of Palm Beach, whether it's the dishonesty and corruption of the Jeffrey Epstein case or the murder of George DeMornshield, it's the same sheriff's department that looked into both of those nothing burgers, right? Do you post it or get me a message somehow, some way? I have posted my P.O. box where you can send donations to me to support my work and or join the Juxtaposition Coffee Club. Get yourself a mug by making a generous donation to my channel, and I will do a story having lambasting involved with your city mayor or your city council or your gubernator of your fake, phony Hunger Games state. Take care now. We'll talk soon. Bye bye.